Manchester United exploring bringing back Alvaro Fernandez from Benfica in the January transfer window. Journalists this morning also saying that Manchester United are looking at a potential deal for Christopher Nkunku, who is desperate to leave Chelsea due to a lack of game time. And I will also react to Garnacho, this whole situation with Garnacho and fan fallout and all the rest of it. If this is your first time watching, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 40,000 subscribers. And also make sure you like the video. Let's try and get to 500 likes. Why not? Right, let's talk firstly, though, a little bit about yesterday's game. Apologies that I didn't have any videos yesterday. I wasn't at home. I was away, so I was watching the game, but not at home. So I effectively didn't have my setup to do a video. So I do apologise, but 3-0 victory. Very, very happy with that. Garnacho's goal was absolutely lovely. I think all of the goals were nice, to be fair. They were all good. But yeah, I was really, really happy with that. What a way to see out Ruud van Nistelrooy's interim time as the Manchester United manager. He got 3 wins and a draw. Can't complain about that. Albeit, they were all home games and they were against, let's say, lesser opponents. You played Leicester twice and you played PAOK, who are bottom of the Europa League. So let's not get too excited, you know. He did do well, but, you know, it's not like he went and beat Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City in his 4 games. It was against the bottom of the Premier League, the bottom of the Europa League, and a draw against Chelsea. And we didn't play particularly well against Chelsea, let's be fair. But still, I'm happy. You know, we didn't lose. We won 3. We drew 1. We're climbing back up the Premier League table again. He's brought in the stability. Everything's calmed down a bit. The mass hysteria in the fan base is kind of gone. We are still only 13th in the table, which is pretty dim reading. But we are only 4 points off top 4. We're 4 points off Arsenal, who were title contenders at the beginning of the season, you know. So when you look at it like that, you know, if we were to get a couple more wins under our belt in the next few weeks, obviously our next game is against Ipswich and then we play Everton. If we were to win both those games, we could be in and around the top 4 by Christmas time. And that has to kind of be the expectation. So very, very happy with Ruud's time as Manchester United manager. Do I think he'll stay on? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think he deserves to stay on if Ruben Amorim wants him. But I just think that for me, Ruud van Nistelrooy is ready to go and become a manager for someone else. You know, he's good enough to be a first-team manager. And I think bringing him in and keeping him just because he's an ex-legend and to try and accommodate him, I just don't think is the most logical decision. I mean, maybe Ruben Amorim thinks, you know what? I need a bit of stability. I need someone at the club who knows the club well, knows the players well, like to advise him. I mean, it would make sense, but I think it more depends on what role Ruben Amorim can offer Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's the biggest kind of stumbling block for me, because I think from what we've seen of Ruud van Nistelrooy, we can all agree that he could definitely go and manage another club. I mean, he managed PSV before and won 2 trophies for them as the first team manager. So even for him coming to Manchester United in the first place, it was kind of him taking a step back, really, because he is now the assistant. Obviously, he's the interim now, but when Ten Hag was here, obviously he was the assistant, wasn't he? So, yeah, I'd be interested to see how this situation pans out. Ruben Amorim was asked about what formation he's going to play and also if Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to stay. This interview went out last night after Sporting Lisbon beat Braga 4-2 in Ruben Amorim's final game as the Sporting Lisbon manager. Apparently, Ruben Amorim will be arriving into Manchester today, and apparently he will be speaking to Ruud van Nistelrooy today. So we should find out very, very soon. I can't predict it, though, to be honest. I think there's pros and cons to both sides of it. Ruud van Nistelrooy says that he wants to stay and that he's happy to work in any role, but I just don't really understand that. I mean, if Ruben Amorim says that you can just be a coach, like, is that really that good for Ruud van Nistelrooy? He's gone from the first team manager as PSV to the assistant manager at Manchester United to the interim manager at Manchester United and then to be demoted to a coach, because I don't think he's going to be the assistant manager, because we know that Sporting Lisbon we know that Ruben Amorim is bringing his assistants from Sporting. So, yeah, I think if he was to stay, it would be in a much lesser role, and I think a lot of other clubs around Europe will be looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy and saying, you know, he's good enough to come and manage us now. So, yeah, I guess the only thing to bear in mind is obviously he has still got, I think, 2 years left on his contract, Ruud van Nistelrooy. So maybe in the press conferences, you know, he says, oh, you know, I'll stay, I'll do whatever it takes to stay, because effectively he doesn't want to he doesn't want to like tear up the contract with Manchester United. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to disrespect the contract. I don't know. But it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section. Will Ruben Amorim keep Ruud van Nistelrooy? Let me know your thoughts below. What have we got in the comments today? Ginge says the results have been decent, but the performances have not been decent. Leicester were the better side yesterday. The scoreline flattered us. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, in that first half, Leicester should have scored a couple of goals, really. And like I said to you a couple of days ago, the only difference since Erik ten Hag has left is the midfield is better because he's selecting Casemiro and Ugarte, which I agree with. I think the other big difference is Ruud van Nistelrooy doesn't seem to be afraid to drop players. You know, he dropped Rashford, he dropped Garnacho yesterday, etc. And I think we have just got a little bit more confidence in us and we're getting a bit more luck. But other than that, I wouldn't actually say the football's any better, you know? But the players seem happier. The players seem more confident. The players seem like fortune is coming their way, which it wasn't under Erik ten Hag. We can all agree that, and that's why he needed to go. But yeah, I mean, it's not like we've gone from being terrible to amazing overnight. And as you say, the results do kind of flatter us a little bit. But at the end of the day, that's how football is sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes you play not very well and you win. Sometimes you play amazingly and you lose. Like, that's just how football is. But let's move on from that and let's talk a little bit about Alvaro Fernandez then. So the reports this morning are suggesting that apparently Manchester United want to trigger the buyback clause for I keep saying Ruben Amorim, for Alvaro Fernandez, which is really, really interesting. I think Alvaro Fernandez scored a goal last night for Benfica, which is also interesting. Let me just double check that. Yeah, he did. He scored a goal last night, Alvaro Fernandez. He scored quite a few goals actually. He scored a goal against. He scored two, in his last two Portuguese league matches. He scored 2 goals and got 2 assists in 3 games at left back or left wing back, whatever you want to call it. And obviously Bayern, they lost to Bayern, didn't they, Benfica? But yeah, apparently Man United are looking at this buyback clause. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's a player that Ruben Amorim knows. It's a player that obviously Manchester United know. It's a player who wants to come back to Manchester United supposedly and dreams of, you know, being the first team option at Manchester United. We don't have a left back. Luke Shaw's just disappeared off the face of the earth again. And apparently the buyback clause is worth only £16 million, which to me is a no-brainer. If you can bring him back for 16 million, I would go and do that the second the window opens. I think we sold him for about... I think it was about 6 million, something like that. So we're only really giving them 10 million if you think about it in that way. And I think he would slot straight into our team as the left wing back. Because let's be honest, we can't rely on Luke Shaw. We can't rely on Tyrell Malacia. And you're not going to get a better left back for £10 million. Because as I said, remember, Benfica gave us about 6 million for him. And the buyback clause is 16 million. So we're only actually really giving them 10. No one in this chat can name me a better left back for £10 million. Like, there isn't one. Somebody who's literally playing in the Champions League, scoring goals, getting assists, starting every single match for Benfica, who at the moment are a better team than Manchester United, footballing ability-wise. They're in the Champions League. We're in the Europa League. It's a pretty... we shouldn't even be in the Europa League, really. You know, we finished 8th in the table last season. 21 years of age, absolutely quality. I would definitely bring him back without a shadow of a doubt. That should be Ruben Amorim's first signing. So we'll wait and see how that one happens, but obviously he fits the profile. He can play at that left back, he can play in the left wing back position, and we do have this buyback clause. So if Man United can get this one over the line, I would be very, very happy. So we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But would you like to see Alvaro Fernandez? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Ginge says it was €9 million that they paid. Okay, what's that in pounds? Let me have a look. So euros to pounds. Okay, so we got about £7.5 million from Benfica for Alvaro Fernandez. And we need to pay them 16 million to bring him back, which means, quick maths on the spot, it's about £8.5 million we'd have to give Benfica. They gave us 7.5. The buyback clause is 16. £8.5 million would be the figure. I mean... £8.5 million. I know people will say, oh, why did we sell him in the first place? Apparently it was Ten Hag who forced him out of the club because he thought he wasn't going to play. But, you know, he's gone to Benfica. He's proved himself. He's playing in the Champions League. He's starting every game for Benfica. Yes, it's disappointing that we didn't keep him and nurture him and all the rest of it. But it is what it is, isn't it? It's not the most expensive mistake we've made in our history, is it? You know, when you think we spent €100 million on Antony... And, you know, a 9 million euro mistake now isn't the end of the world, is it? You know, we've wasted a lot of money in a lot worse ways than this. So I think we just got to, you know, take it on the chin and just and bring him back. But yeah, be interested to see what you guys think about that. Ant says, do you think he is good enough? From what I've seen of Alvaro Fernandez, he does look decent. I've watched quite a few Benfica games this season in the Champions League, and he looks really, really good. And, you know, when you compare him to what we have at the moment, currently we've got Diogo Dalot at left back, who I don't think is very good at left back, to be honest. I think Dalot at right back is okay, but in the left back position, I don't think Diogo Dalot is effective, because you've got to remember Dalot's right-footed. So when you have a right-footed left back, it's just not comfortable for the player. He's not very two-footed. So yeah, I think for that reason, you definitely should look to bring him back. And obviously, Alvaro Fernandez is left-footed. You put him at left back, and then you have Mazraoui and Dalot as your two right backs, which I think would be decent. You know, or right wing backs, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I think it definitely would be a good option for Manchester United. So we'll wait and see whether that one happens. Ginge says he's absolutely good enough, obviously referring to Alvaro Fernandez, when you compare him to Dalot, who is awful at left back. I would agree. I think Dalot's an okay player. I'm not as hyped up about Dalot as some people are. Some people think he's world class and that he's amazing. I don't really see it personally. I think he's decent, but I don't think he's amazing. And I think he's pretty poor at left back, but which is fine. He's a right back. You know, he's playing out of position. So yeah, I think if we can do this, that would be the ideal situation here. Right, let's move on to this whole thing about Garnacho then, shall we? So I'm not going to... I assume everybody's seen this whole Garnacho situation. There was a fan outside the stadium yesterday who, I think it was yesterday, or it might have been a couple of days ago, and had a bit of a confrontation, let's call it, with Garnacho, where effectively the fan said to Garnacho, you need to learn to pass the ball better, you need to improve your first touch, you need to stop shooting, and all the rest of it, right? Which is all probably fair criticism. Let's not beat around the bush. That probably is fair criticism. And then Garnacho turns around to him and says, oh, I'd like to see you on the pitch or something, you know? So he kind of bit back at this fan. This has obviously caused like mass hysteria. All sorts of crazy stuff's kind of happened after this. And yesterday, obviously, Garnacho scored. He didn't celebrate. And then at the end of the game, all of the Manchester United fans were kind of comforting him, because it seems like he's been so brought down by this, what some people are calling abuse, that it's really, really shattered his confidence. Now, I've got two different opinions on this. I think all of the things that were said to him, you know, he needs to improve his first touch, he needs to pass the ball more, he needs to not shoot every time he gets the ball, I think is probably all fair criticism. And I think most people in this chat would agree with that, right? Because all of those things are areas he needs to improve. But the way in which it was delivered, this was outside Old Trafford. You know, when the players are walking into Old Trafford and fans can kind of wait and fans can wait out there and get autographs and stuff. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, this is for children. It's children who wait out there and get autographs and photos taken. I think the way that somebody delivered this to him was probably not necessary. Obviously, it was videoed and put on Twitter as well. So it was a fan holding their phone in Garnacho's face saying, Garnacho, you need to improve this, you need to improve that, you need to improve... I mean, it's not really what they need before a game of football, is it? You know, you want to encourage your players. You want to support your players, especially as they're about to go out onto the pitch and hopefully perform for Manchester United. You know, it's bad enough on social media. It's bad enough people like me or you putting our opinions out on the internet. But at the end of the day, do you really think Garnacho is going to watch this channel? No, of course he's not. Do you think, like, he's going to look on Twitter and read what you or him might say about areas he needs to improve? Of course he's not. He's going to go and speak to his coaches, who will probably be saying the same things to him, you know? Like, I'm sure his coaches are telling him, these are the areas you need to improve, right? You need to improve your first touch. You need to improve your ability to find others opposed to shooting. And I'm sure those are things that he'll be working on. You know, he's not stupid. But I think obviously the way it was delivered and the fact that it was videoed and he had a camera in his face, probably with the intention of just going out on social media, maybe that was the bit that's like questionable. But obviously off the back of this, the fan that did it has had a lot of backlash, as you can imagine. There's been horrible racist things being said about them and all sorts of horrible things, which I think is obviously completely unacceptable. I don't know. I think, as I said, there's two sides to it. I think the criticism is probably fair, but the way it was delivered was probably not fair, and probably not done in the right way. But, this is how the world is these days. Like, are we really surprised? And at the end of the day, you are a footballer. You're earning hundreds of thousands of, millions of pounds a year. You're in the public domain. It's going to happen, isn't it? And I think, if anything, this is just a lesson that, it's obviously not okay. And I think, to be honest, Garnacho probably handled it pretty well. Like, it could have been a lot worse. He kind of just was a bit cheeky back to him, and that was kind of it. But the thing which I think upset me was just to see one of our players yesterday on the pitch and to see how shattered he was. He scored an absolutely beautiful goal and he didn't even celebrate because that's upset him that much, which, some people would say, oh, he should have thicker skin, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. But I don't know. I don't really agree with all that thing. It's, every human's different. Just because they're a footballer doesn't mean that everything's great. You don't know what's going on in his world. Like, and there's this whole perception where people will be like, oh, he earns loads of money, everything must be all right. But I just think that's a little bit narrow-minded to think like that, because it clearly has affected him, which is obviously then makes it not okay. Now, yeah, I don't know what will come of this. I think, I've seen some mad stuff on social media over the last couple of days, about this whole situation. And I think Manchester United probably... I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, to be honest. We live in a world where social media is rife, and you put a video up and it goes viral and you get loads of followers, and like that's how social media works these days. At the end of the day, it is, isn't it? And I think, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but I've always tried to be level-headed on this channel, not reactionary, not targeting players. We have our opinions and we say it in a respectful way, and that's always how I'm going to try and present myself. And I think this instance that we're talking about here, the criticism, I think, was probably fair, and we would all agree with that, right? That, Garnacho needs to improve his first touch, he needs to improve his ability to bring others into the game and all the rest of it. I think all that criticism is fair. And it's not even really criticism, it's feedback. It's areas he needs to improve, which I agree with, definitely. But it's just how it was delivered, It's not really necessary to, an hour before a player has to go out on the pitch outside the stadium to have a camera in front of his face with the intention of putting it out on the internet and effectively giving him this feedback. Like, it's not really necessary, is it? Because I'm sure he knows what what he needs to improve. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what's going to come of this. Obviously, as I said, the backlash off the back of this whole situation has been pretty crazy. I've seen some, a lot of abuse towards the fan who put out this video, which was obviously going to happen. You know what social media is like again. So I don't know. Fair play to Garnacho. He then got benched as well, which must have been pretty hard for him. He gets this whole situation go down. The video goes viral on the internet. He then gets benched, but he still has enough in him to come on that pitch yesterday and score that beautiful goal, So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we see him looking happy again, because he did look very upset yesterday, Garnacho. He didn't celebrate. At the end of the game, all of the Man United players were going over and hugging him, and he looked pretty sad. So yeah, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to get you guys' opinions on that. I know, yeah, I know there's not really a right or wrong answer, is there? Some people will say, oh, he should have thicker skin, he earns loads of money, and others will say, oh, it's a disgrace, that shouldn't happen, Old Trafford should ban people like this who are, but I don't know. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I just think, as I said, my personal opinion on this whole situation is that the criticism or the feedback is probably fair, because that's probably what every single Man United fan is thinking. But it's just how you deliver it, and you deliver it with the intent to then put it out on the internet. That's the bit that's questionable. I think we'd all agree on that, right? But at the same time, as I said, you live in an age of social media, and doing something like that, you know what the outcome of that is, and that's just how the world works. That's how this industry works at the end of the day. So yeah, but what I will say is this, the abuse that this fan has got is absolutely disgusting. Like some of the stuff I've seen on Twitter, some of the stuff I've seen is just like completely unacceptable. So yeah, but anyway, let's move on from that. You can let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section. I hope I've, presented the situation in a level-headed way. So yeah. Right, let's talk a little bit about Christopher Nkunku then really quick, because this story, I'll be honest, completely caught me by surprise when I was looking at all the news around Manchester United this morning. I'll be honest, right? Christopher Nkunku is somebody that I really like. I know he's not done particularly well at Chelsea, which is a bit disappointing. But before he came to Chelsea, Christopher Nkunku was somebody who I thought would be really good for Manchester United. But apparently he wants to leave Chelsea. Now, this might just be agent-driven. This might just be his agent trying to get him more game time, because he doesn't really play at the moment. And obviously Chelsea have got so many players. They've got such a bloated squad, haven't they? And apparently Manchester United want to sign Christopher Nkunku. That's what's being reported this morning. Obviously, Chelsea owe us quite a large amount of money for the Jadon Sancho deal, which I think becomes mandatory if they finish in the top half of the table, which they obviously will. So this story is coming out from L'Equipe. It's coming out from other English media sources as well this morning. And the headline is this, that apparently Manchester United have inquired about signing Christopher Nkunku in the January transfer window from Chelsea. It goes on to say that he is unhappy about his playing time at Chelsea. I just personally think that this story will probably have come out from his agent, right? His agent trying to get him more game time. What do we do? Let's put out a story saying that Man United want to sign him, and then Chelsea probably start playing him. It seems a little bit tactical to me. Because he only signed, 2 seasons ago? Not even, last summer in July 2023. And he's got a deal until 2029. So, yeah, I think the likelihood of this one happening is probably pretty slim. Because at the end of the day, Chelsea are going to want to recoup as much of the money they spent on him in the first place. And he was quite expensive. So, yeah, I just can't see it happening personally. But I thought I'd bring it into the show. I mean, if we could get him like in a swap deal for Jadon Sancho, I think we're selling Sancho for 20 million. If we could get Nkunku for 20 million, I'd probably do that. But otherwise, I don't think I would. Ant says Nkunku would fill in a position that we don't have. There is Bruno, Mount, and even Xerxes. For him to come in, 2 of those 3 have to go. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Somebody in the chat saying, how is Jadon Sancho still injured? I don't know what's going on with Sancho. I think something fishy's going on, definitely. It feels like the whole Ten Hag situation again, doesn't it? But yeah. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on the show this morning. I hope you all have a great Monday. Please make sure to drop a like before you leave. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.